What are your relationships like with other real estate agents? Sure, not just the ones in your office, but the ones in your state, your local association, your state association. Today, I spoke with Chandra Etienne. She is the broker owner of the Core Real Estate Advisors in Miami. She's also on the corporate board of directors for Miami Realtors and is really active in both Florida Realtors and the National Association of REALTORS. And one of the things that she really hammered home was about how being involved, not just with the association, but in the industry in general, puts you in touch with a phenomenal resource of agents and brokers and leaders who can provide invaluable experience for you to draw from for your own real estate business. And real estate is all about relationships. And it's not just relationships with your buyers and sellers. It's relationships, and not just with your agents either. It's relationships with people outside of the industry or in different markets as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy the podcast. So Chandra, welcome to the RealTrending podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your real estate practice and where you're located?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the broker owner for the Core Real Estate Advisors here in Miami, Florida. We primarily service Miami-Dade County and South Broward County. I think many would probably describe us as a teamerage. So we function very much so as a teamerage. Few agents, not hundreds of agents, but we do have a lot of support staff. So listing coordinator, transaction manager, creative marketing directors, things like that. We've been able to pretty much have a referral-based company. A lot of people don't know, but I've been in the industry for a very long time, right? So I got in around 2008, 2009, right when everything was kind of dipping. My mom convinced me to kind of join the family business and start helping her out. So luckily in 2024, we've been able to essentially continue servicing past clients, right? Because we're talking almost 14 or so years now. So it's been quite a while. So yeah, that's a little bit about our practice, and I'm just excited for everything that's happening with the brokerage. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in addition to that, you hold several different positions and have had several different positions with Miami Realtors and also YPN and that. So, tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Realtor Association.
Yeah, so I like to call them my second family because I spend so much time with them and I absolutely love them. But essentially, my leadership, I guess, volunteer leadership roles essentially started in 2019. So right before COVID hit. So that was interesting. That has been very fun. Of course, like everybody else in the real estate industry, we had to navigate all of these new things that were happening. But I have been involved with the Miami Association of Realtors in a leadership capacity since 2019. Been serving on their corporate board for since 2021 now, and I'm their current elected secretary for the corporate board. And then in addition to that, held certain positions with Florida Realtors, NAR being as a director role. And I think the best part of being involved in everything is the opportunity to serve on key committees that are really important and that are impactful in our real estate business, in our industry, kind of like public policy and communications committees and things like that. So essentially, we're the voice of the industry, right? So we bring matters of concern to our associations, and yeah, it's been a phenomenal journey, phenomenal experience, and I really think that Miami Realtors is just probably the best association. I might be biased, but the best association in the country. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously a lot going on. We have some new policy and practice changes coming into effect in August. And I know that you've kind of been on the forefront of helping the association navigate those changes and also helping your brokerage navigate those changes. So what do you see as the biggest challenges for agents in kind of revamping the way they do business?
I think that generally speaking, right, people tend to have a hard time with change, right? And just adapting to change can be a very big challenge for agents, especially. And unfortunately, our industry has seen a lot of change recently, whether it was something that happened specifically in our industry or things that were completely out of our control, kind of like COVID. So in regards to like, I guess like the biggest challenge that I see that agents are having, I guess it would kind of have to just go back to, just focusing on the facts. I think that the association, like Miami Association of Realtors, really does a fantastic job at providing like the tools and the resources that the agents need and the brokers need. So, for example, they've licensed a broker course so that brokers can use to train their agents. And honestly, it's the easiest thing for most brokers to just tap into and utilize in order to train their agents with all of the changes moving forward. The fact that the association, Miami Realtors, is such a large association and the biggest association in the country as far as local associations go, I think that we do a great job at focusing on providing the tools, the value, the classes, the education, and everything to our agents. And I think that what's really neat is the opportunities that we kind of get, kind of like this, right? Like this being on this podcast with you, Tracey, like, and having conversations like this so that we can kind of provide a little bit of context to everything that's going on. I think that it's also important for like some agents to know that the associations didn't know that this announcement was going to be made. We didn't know that on Friday, March 15th, that this announcement was going to be made about this proposed settlement. The association was not privy to that. So it's been pretty fascinating to see them like that announcement come out on a Friday. And then by Monday, like we're having our first legal update. So I just think that that's like a perfect example of agents needing to kind of just hone in and kind of tap into the resources that the association provides, because they really do such a great job. I mean, that first week, let me see, that announcement came on a Friday. By Monday, we had our first legal update. I think there were like 5 or 6 more that week. We had almost 5,000 agents attend. It was in English and Spanish. So I think that as a broker and a practitioner, right, as a real estate agent, helping people buy and sell real estate every day, it was just really important to kind of just tap into the resources that were already being provided to us.
Yeah, I think it's very confusing for a lot of agents and brokers now, regardless of the resources, because the DOJ is kind of throwing things out that are surprising people, such as like taking a look at the California Association's forms and deciding those are not what they want. Really not giving. There's not a. I guess there's guidance, but there's not a ton of sure guidance right now for all of the changes. How are you working directly with your agents? Do you still sell real estate in addition to being the broker?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
how are you, even navigating it yourself? Do you work with a lot of buyers, or do you generally work with listings? And if you're working with a lot of buyers, do you have a new buyer consultation that you're doing, or any specific practices you're changing?
To be completely honest, we've only had very few, clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, even bring it up. I really think that it's probably just a little bit more polarized because we're in the industry. So we are talking about it, I think, far more than some of our clients are. Personally, I don't necessarily bring it up because commissions and things have always been negotiable. I think that as far as like our buyer representation goes and our consultations go, I guess like the only major difference would be in the event that, we've had new forms come out, right? So that's one thing. So we did have new forms recently come out. So that's something that we will be implementing starting August 17th. But honestly, I want to start implementing it now. I don't think it needs to wait till August 17th. We have the new forms, new disclosures, whether that's the buyer brokerage agreements and the compensation forms. I guess that would be like the only thing added to the conversation. I think that Miami is a very unique market where, and in general, I think that a lot of sellers are also buyers. From my experience, I'm seeing that there are a lot of people who want to sell, but also need to buy, right?
Yeah.
So they need to sell in order for them to buy. So I just find that the conversation is not necessarily different. I think I had one person mention that, like, okay, well, they saw that they don't have to pay anymore.
Right.
They don't have to pay by, and I said, well, you know what? This is just like before. These are things that were always negotiable, right? I provided the pros, provided the cons, and then also reminded them that they're going to be a buyer, right? They also need to buy. So to put them in the buyer's shoes, and how still offering compensation, whether that's compensation or just incentives to buyers or whatever, it just increases the buyers, the potential buyers that they would have for their property, essentially getting them more money for it. So I really think that as agents and as realtors, I think that the noise is a lot louder for us from what I've seen, right? I think it's a lot louder for us than it is for the actual buyers and sellers in the market.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. And I think that that's kind of what's so confusing to a lot of agents, is just like, how far do I need to go? What do I need to go? I don't want to break the rules. I want to do the right thing. I know Florida is a presumed transaction brokerage state, so it's a little different in Florida as well. There are some agents who serve as single agents and fill out those forms, but most of them, as far as I know, are transaction brokers. So it does provide a little bit of a different, experience for buyers and sellers as that. What advice do you have for agents just navigating all of this right now?
I think that the biggest thing is being flexible and open to change can literally make the difference as to whether or not you will see success in this industry or experience some sort of stagnation. Because I feel like being in panic mode instead of being in action mode can really prevent you from being able to move forward. I think that there have been many instances in our industry in which a lot of people panicked and left. Right. So it happened in 08 and 09 during the recession. It happened even years before that. Right. So my mother, she's been in the real estate industry for almost 40 years now. And, talking to her, she's like, I can't believe people are making such a big deal about this. Do you know how crazy everybody went when we had to take listings out of a MLS book and put it on the MLS? Everybody was panicking about that. So I really think that these times provide an opportunity for us to just literally be flexible, be open to the change, be able to pivot. Real estate is very dynamic. And at this time, I really think that we need to be a little bit more open, right? This is not going to be the only time that something happens that affects the way that we do business. 2020 and a global pandemic affected how we did business, right? So this wouldn't be the first time that change has happened. And I think the other thing that's really important to mention too is that, the one of the big things, there's really just two changes, but the big change really, as far as this proposed settlement, is that we're going to have buyer brokerage agreements required, right? 18 states already had it required. You already had a lot of brokerages and a lot of agents that had it, as part of their standard practice and part of their policy and procedures. I personally have been using buyer brokerage agreements for years. I actually had an agent of mine not use one last year, and she cried because she ended up, the buyer ended up going behind her back and using the lender's mother, who was also a realtor, So I really think that there's opportunity here. Anytime there's change, there's opportunity. And I really think that agents need to be flexible and be able to be open to change in order to see success with everything that's happening.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually was just starting out in real estate, actually with Florida Realtors, at the time that Zillow came about and all of the listings went from the books to online. And I do
Yeah.
remember the panic that happened. Then
Yeah.
buyers and they're going to know everything. They're not going to need to come to us to ask any questions.
Right.
And guess what? They still came to the
They
agent
still need
to get
us.
that information. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and it was a gentleman, and he was just like, well, I mean, the listings are online. And I
Mhm.
said, where do you think they come from the MLS? We put them there.
Yeah,
That's how it even got
yeah,
there. We put it there,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So what do you feel like are going to be the long-term impacts on buyers and sellers? Because it will impact, especially buyers, who may not
Hmm.
may not have the seller paying compensation and may have to come out of pocket with that along with the down payment too.
I think that is a possibility. I do. That was my initial um, response. Initially I thought, oh my goodness, buyers, especially first time home buyers and things like that. But I also think that there are two opportunities that exist here. I think one is for agents to be able to sharpen their skills, right? And be able to have those tough conversations with their sellers, right? And be able to explain to sellers the benefits, the pros and cons with being able to offer concessions or offer the compensation to the buyer's broker, right? I think that at the end of the day, the agents are the ones that really need to be able to practice all of those skills to have those conversations with sellers. I think that if sellers understand the benefit of this, then all it's going to do is essentially allow for them to sell their home for top dollar. They're gonna be able to generate more buyers for their properties. And I kind of mentioned earlier that a lot of times we just have to be able to put the seller in the buyer's shoes, because I'm finding that there are a lot of sellers in the marketplace who are also buyers. We just have to be able to have those conversations. As far as the buyers go, I completely understand like the concern, but I think that with the changes as well and having the agreement having to be in place, I actually think that it's a good thing for the buyers in regards to, I think that when it comes to the agreements, traditionally everybody thought this is something that solely benefits the agents, right? Only benefits the realtors. However, this is something in place to also make sure that buyers are getting the professional, service that they expect from their realtor. It's essentially an agreement between both parties, that provides clarity. And I think that it's going to allow for buyers to actually experience a much higher level of expertise and a much higher professional experience moving forward with their agent. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it opens up conversations and transparency in the transaction that was
Hmm.
there before. It wasn't that it wasn't there before, but this gives it even
Absolutely.
more even more conversations to be had. So yeah. Um
Yeah, I just think that we're finally going to get to a place where everybody's going to have a signed agreement in place for everything. And I don't
yeah.
think that's bad. If I go to anybody for professional service, like there's an agreement as far as
Mhm.
what they're going to do for me, what I'm paying for,
Right.
So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in as far as the real estate industry in general, the market's been a little crazy. Interest rates have been high. Haven't really seen a lot of, any of them lowering anytime soon. Although who knows?
Yeah.
It's hard to predict at this point. But
Yeah.
what are you most excited about in the real estate industry moving forward?
Well, again, I might be biased, but I'm in Miami,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So Miami is a very unique market. I think that I think that a lot of times people are looking at headlines, but in reality, what's happening in Miami tends to be completely different than what's happening in the rest of the country. I think, like for me personally, something that I love to do is look up monthly stats. I want to see everything that's happening monthly in certain neighborhoods, especially now that we've kind of the firm has kind of pivoted towards like some old school methods of like lead generation and stuff. We're really honing in on the data, right? I want to see the data. And what's really interesting is that Miami has a lot of cash buyers, so it's kind of hard to have interest rate issues with somebody who's ready to spend their cash, So Miami is very different in that regards. And then like our buyer demographic is coming from everywhere, like internationally, domestically, obviously from New York, California. And I think that the Miami market is extremely lucky to not necessarily be seeing things that are happening in other markets across the country. I mean, it's hard to not be excited about what's happening in South Florida. We have huge wealth migration. You have major financial and tech institutions moving their headquarters down here, Blackstone, the Citadel, Spotify, Microsoft. It's really hard to like not be excited. We've had job growth. We've been ranked like number one and number two economy in the country. Like we have our suburbs here, like Pinecrest. That's a market a neighborhood that I actively help clients buy and sell in. And they were just named one of the wealthiest suburbs in the country, and so was Palm Beach. So it's hard to be in South Florida and not be excited about real estate. Everybody wants to be here. Yeah. Everybody wants to either live here, vacation here, they want to invest here. It's hard to not be excited about the future of real estate in Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a ton of opportunity in the market. I want to kind of pivot to you a little bit and talk about well, first of all, I want to know what inspires you. I know this wasn't one of our questions, but I'm going to throw it at you. What inspires you? What, have you read any really good books lately on leadership or real estate? Do you listen to any podcasts that really inspire you? Maybe not even related to real estate at all. Where do you find your motivation and where do you look for inspiration?
I'm a mom, right? I have 3 young boys. My husband and I, our hands are very full all the time. And he's also an entrepreneur. He has a web design and marketing agency that he runs. And so I'd be lying if I said I've read books recently that were not children's books, right? So I would say that something that I've been focusing on a lot recently is really just taking care of myself. I think that real estate is one of those industries that can be extremely stressful, right? Just the roles that we play, the number of hats that we wear in a single transaction. And sometimes every transaction is different. So I really try to take care of myself. I've been big into meditation, learning to say no, because that was really hard for me at one point, just saying yes, 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 learning when to say no, working smarter, not harder. And interestingly, I don't necessarily, this is going to sound bad, but I don't necessarily listen to real estate related stuff because at the end of the day, I see the real estate industry as a business. Yeah. So I like to focus more on just business things. I like to draw inspiration from what other successful companies are doing, try to implement that into our brokerage, into how we maybe lead generate, how we design our marketing pieces and things like that. So yeah, I honestly, everything outside of real estate and leadership at this point has been momming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I listen to a ton of podcasts, but most of them are not real estate related either. There are a lot of mindset and, like you said, kind of that working on yourself, type of thing, or just listening to, how different companies are doing things that, you could build into whatever you're working on. So,
yeah, for sure.
So every leader kind of has an aha moment where they realize they have to take a pause and restructure their business or do something different. It could be a personal thing that happened. It could be a professional thing. What is your most impactful aha moment?
It would definitely be 2020. Yeah, 2020 was a very pivotal year for many different reasons. But I want to say that the biggest aha, I had really three main ahas, right? But I would say the biggest one would definitely have to do with my roles in leadership. And again, I had just started serving with the Miami Association of Realtors in 2019. That was my first year. So when 2020 came around and everything shut down, it was very interesting to be able to see the power that we had and the ability to just kind of pivot and get things going. RPAC, for those who are not familiar with RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee, that was my first time actually being able to see the impact of that. And that was a very big light bulb moment for me because literally we were, a shutdown was announced. Okay, we have a global pandemic, and literally immediately our industry and realtors were deemed essential. And all of that was because of our efforts, all of everything that we were doing. And it was fascinating to see how quickly we were able to be deemed essential, get into condos, have inspections going. Now, did we have to change how we did things? Were things virtual? Yes. But the point is, we were able to continue operating and serving our buyers and sellers simply because of everything that we did because of RPAC. That was a very big win for us. And I think that was probably what impacted our economy, like our local economy, the most, as far as us being able to be deemed essential. That was absolutely fascinating. That was a very big aha moment because then I started to understand exactly what the association was doing, right? And being able to participate in all of that was just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's amazing. You give money to RPAC and that, but a lot of times you don't really follow what they're doing or what the decisions are. And that one was one that really impacted the entire state. Boom. It was, it was like, okay, that is money well spent, putting my money toward these
Yes.
causes in that. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Absolutely. And a lot of it started from before,
Yeah.
right? So we didn't have a magic ball that told us that
Yeah.
COVID was going to happen in 2020. It was, I think another big thing was like being able to have the notaries and have
Mhm.
online electronic like
Yeah.
notary signatures. That
Yeah.
was something that we were working on prior to 2020
Hmm.
that went into effect in January 1st of 2020. So, those are like the little things that I wish that like not only are all of our members knew, and we do a really good job at pushing it out there, but we want to make sure that everybody's aware of all of these RPAC wins and exactly what it does. But that was fascinating too. Like we basically had things in motion to allow us to continue doing business, without being face to face, even prior to us even hearing the word COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, my last question is just where do you see the most opportunity in real estate in general? Like, if you had to give agents advice on, events to attend or, how to get involved in the association, just in general, how to take advantage of the opportunities out there, what would you say to them? Not just about the association, but the industry in general.
I'll touch on the association really quick. I think that our association really does a fantastic job. We literally have thousands of classes a year, in person and virtually. And at the end of the day, this is a relationship based business. And I think that a lot of realtors tend to think, okay, well, it's just relationships with potential buyers and sellers, renters and investors. But no, it's also with other realtors, other real estate professionals. Do you know how powerful it is to have somebody who's interested in a home, wants to put an offer on a home, and the listing agent, the broker? This is powerful stuff to be able to generate and have these authentic, powerful relationships with your peers. And a lot of it, it's very easy to start with what is happening at our association. We have an amazing headquarters that has phenomenal events, phenomenal training, phenomenal classes. As far as like getting involved, we have conferences that we do. In 2 days, we have Rock the Market. You know, we sold out last year. Of course, YPN, that's where I started. Those are my babies. I love them.
Yeah.
We have countless classes, countless events. And it's not just for young people, as long as you're young at heart, right? I think that it's really important to just tap into your fellow realtors, generate and build relationships with them. As far as like the opportunities go, I'm really just looking forward to getting back to business. And I really hope that other realtors are too. We have buyers and sellers that really need help navigating the market. So I'm really excited to focus on selling real estate. And I really want realtors to do the same at the end of the day when we all represent each other in this industry. So I want everybody to really hone in on their skills, master their skill set, know their values so they're able to translate that to buyers and sellers. And I'm excited for the association to get back to advocacy, promoting and protecting our interests in the real estate market as far as professionals and property owners, get back to community initiatives. And these are all things that anybody can really look into. MiamiRealtors.com. We have a ton of resources on there. As far as facts go, we can go to MiamiRealtors.com/facts, so that everybody can kind of get up to date updates on everything that's going on. We have our events on there. We have classes on there. You're able to see our leadership team on there and our amazing professionals, the staff. I really want for our agents to really understand their power, and know that the association is there to help them, basically succeed in that power.
Well, Chandra, thank you so much for joining the RealTrending podcast. We really appreciate you being on.
No, thank you so much, Tracey. I really appreciate this.